Some men go to war to fight. Others go because they are called, but very few step onto a battlefield with a conviction so strong that it sets them apart from everyone around them. Desmond Doss was one of those men. When the United States entered World War II, thousands answered the call. Among them were farmers, workers, and ordinary citizens ready to take up arms. It was expected. War demanded it. But Doss made a choice that no one around him could understand. He would go to war. But he would not carry a weapon. To the men beside him, this made no sense. A battlefield was no place for hesitation, no place for principles that could get others killed. A soldier was expected to fight, to defend, to take action when the moment came. Doss refused, not out of fear, but out of belief. He had grown up holding firmly to his convictions, shaped by faith and a deep sense that taking a life was something he could never justify. Even in war, even when surrounded by violence, he believed his role was different. He would serve as a medic. He would save lives. At first, this decision did not earn respect. It earned anger. The men in his unit saw him as a risk, someone who would not defend them when it mattered most. Training became more than just preparation for war. It became a test of his resolve. He was pushed harder than the others, mocked, isolated. There were moments when the pressure was not just verbal. When frustration turned physical. When the idea of having someone like him in their ranks became too much for some to accept. Still, he did not change. He woke up each day, trained alongside them, carried the same weight, marched the same distance. He did everything required of a soldier except one thing. He would not pick up a rifle. Commanders questioned him. Fellow soldiers doubted him. Some believed he would break under pressure. That when the reality of war finally arrived, his convictions would not hold. But Doss had already made his decision long before stepping onto the battlefield. He was not there to take lives. He was there to save them. And soon that belief would be tested in a way no training could prepare him for, because the war in the Pacific was unlike anything these men had faced before. Dense terrain, hidden enemies, relentless combat, and battles where survival was never guaranteed. When Doss and his unit were deployed, the tension that had followed him through training did not disappear. If anything, it grew stronger. Now the stakes were real. Every man depended on the one beside him. Trust was no longer optional, and many still did not trust him. But war has a way of revealing truth, not through words, but through action. The unit moved through hostile ground, advancing under constant threat. Gunfire could erupt at any moment. Explosions were part of the rhythm of each day. Men were wounded, some falling where they stood, others calling out for help in places too exposed to reach easily. This was where Doss stepped forward. While others focused on the fight, he focused on the fallen. He moved through danger without hesitation, reaching men who could not move, treating wounds under fire, pulling them back to safety when every second mattered. He did not stop to think about what could happen to him. He acted. Again and again. At first it surprised them, then it began to change something. The same men who had doubted him started to see what he was doing, not from a distance but in the moments when they needed it most. When they were injured, when they were exposed, when they thought they might not make it, he was there, unarmed, unprotected, but unwavering, and slowly something shifted. Respect replaced doubt. Trust replaced anger. Because when everything was on the line, the man they once questioned was the one running toward danger, not away from it. But nothing they had experienced so far would compare to what was coming next. Because soon, they would face one of the most brutal battles of the war. A place where the ground itself seemed to resist every step forward. A place where entire units could disappear in a matter of hours. A place known as Okinawa. And it was there, on a stretch of land that would test the limits of every man who set foot on it, that Desmond Doss would be pushed beyond anything he had ever known. And what he would do there would not only define him, it would change the way every man around him understood what courage truly looks like. But that moment had not come yet. And when it did, it would demand everything he had. The island of Okinawa did not welcome them. From the moment they arrived, it was clear this would not be like the battles before. The land itself felt hostile. Mud clung to their boots, slowing every step. Rain turned the ground into a heavy, shifting weight that swallowed movement and drained strength. The air carried the constant echo of distant gunfire, a reminder that there was no safe place here. Ahead of them stood the objective that would define the battle, a towering escarpment known as Hacksaw Ridge. A near vertical wall of rock that had to be climbed under the threat of enemy fire. At the top, hidden positions waited. Bunkers, trenches, and soldiers prepared to defend every inch of ground. The order came. They had to go up. Rope ladders were thrown against the ridge, and one by one the men began to climb. Exposed, vulnerable, with no way to defend themselves if attacked, they pulled themselves upward into uncertainty. Each step brought them closer to a battlefield they could not yet see but could already feel. Desmond Doss climbed with them, no weapon, only his medical gear and the same quiet resolve he had carried since the beginning. At the top, chaos waited. Gunfire erupted almost immediately. Explosions tore through the ground. The enemy was not just present, they were prepared. Every movement was met with resistance. Every advance came at a cost. Men fell, some instantly. Others wounded, calling out from positions too dangerous to reach. The unit pushed forward, trying to gain ground, but the defense was relentless. Visibility was limited. The terrain offered little protection. It was a fight where survival depended on seconds and decisions made under pressure. And in the middle of it, Doss moved. While others fired, he searched. He found the wounded where they lay, sometimes just feet from enemy positions. He worked quickly, applying bandages, stopping bleeding, doing whatever he could to keep them alive. Then he pulled them back, dragging or carrying them to cover. Again and again, each time stepping into danger, each time returning with another man. The battle stretched on, hours that felt like days. The line between advance and retreat blurred as the intensity grew, and eventually the order came to fall back. The position could not be held. The men began to withdraw, climbing back down the ridge under fire, leaving behind what they could not carry. But not everyone made it back. Wounded soldiers remained at the top. Alone, exposed, left behind in a place where the next moment could be their last. Doss reached the edge of the ridge and looked back. He could have gone down with the others. He had done more than enough. No one would have questioned him, but he did not move. He turned around and walked back into the battlefield. One man unarmed, surrounded by enemy forces. He began searching. He found the first wounded soldier, lifted him, and carried him to the edge. With a rope, he carefully lowered the man down the cliff to safety below. Then he turned back again and again, each time risking everything, each time stepping deeper into danger. Hours passed. The battle had not ended. The enemy was still there, and still he continued, lowering one man at a time, refusing to stop. Because in his mind there was always one more. And as the night grew heavier and the battlefield remained alive with danger, one question remained. How many times can a single man walk into hell and come back out? Night settled over the ridge, but the danger did not fade with the light. The battlefield remained alive with tension, every shadow carrying the possibility of movement, every sound a warning that the fight was not over. And still, Desmond Doss kept going, one man at a time. He searched the ground for any sign of life. A voice, a movement, a breath. When he found someone, he did not hesitate. He lifted them, carried them to the edge, and lowered them down the cliff with steady hands, guiding the rope as if nothing else existed. Then he turned back, again and again. There was no audience, no command ordering him forward, no guarantee that he would survive the next step, only the choice to continue. Hours passed. The weight of exhaustion grew heavier. His body had already been pushed beyond its limits, but he did not stop. Each time he returned to the battlefield, he carried the same thought with him. Just one more, not a number, not a goal, a promise. The sounds of war never fully disappeared. Gunfire echoed in the distance. The enemy was still there, somewhere in the darkness. Every step he took could have been his last, but fear did not guide him. Purpose did. He moved through a place where others had fallen, where chaos had taken control and created something different. Order, focus, action, life, and slowly the number grew. One more became two, two became 10, 10 became something no one could have imagined. By the time the night began to fade, by the time the first light returned to the ridge, the truth of what had happened started to take shape. Men who should not have survived were alive. Men who had been left behind had been brought back. Not by a unit, not by a command, but by one man who refused to leave them there. When the count was finally understood, it did not sound real. 75. 75 lives pulled from a battlefield that had taken so many others. 75 men who would walk again, breathe again, live again because someone chose not to stop. And that is where the story changes, because courage is often imagined as something loud. A charge, a weapon, a moment of force that turns the tide. But what happened on that ridge was something else. It was quiet, relentless, unseen, a man without a weapon stepping into danger not to take life but to protect it. In the middle of one of the most brutal battles of Battle of Okinawa, where destruction defined every moment, he chose a different path, and in doing so, he redefined what strength could be. The men who once doubted him now understood. The man they had questioned had become the one they trusted the most, not because he fought, but because he never left anyone behind. In time, his actions would be recognized. His name would be remembered. His story would be told as one of the most extraordinary acts of courage in American history. But what truly matters is not the recognition. It is the example. Because what he proved on that ridge goes beyond a single battle, beyond a single war. It becomes a question. What does it mean to stand firm in who you are when everything around you demands that you change? What does it mean to face danger without becoming part of it? What does it mean to keep going when every reason to stop is right in front of you? The answer was given on that ridge. Not in words, but in action. 75 times. And that is how a man who refused to carry a weapon became one of the strongest soldiers to ever walk a battlefield. Not by taking life, but by saving it.